What is up, you guys? It's coming. Now, it has been such a long time since my last video, and I thank you all for patiently waiting because today we're back with a brand new video. Now, today's video is something that I've been wanting to make for a little while now, but I had to keep putting it off because of college, finals, and all that. But today, I'm finally here to talk to you guys about Avengers Endgame. Now, Avengers Endgame has been out for over a month now and has gone on to become a huge global success. I've gotten to see Endgame twice now, once on opening Friday night in IMAX 3D and once again a few weeks ago in standard 2D. Now, I have to say, seeing it in IMAX in a packed theater on opening weekend was a completely different experience from seeing it a couple weeks after opening weekend in a standard theater. However, both times I walked out of the theater just thinking, oh my god. The movie was phenomenal. Everything I hoped for it to be and more. Endgame did an incredible job tying together the over a decade-long MCU and delivering a satisfying conclusion while still leaving some doors open to expand upon in the future. If you haven't seen the movie yet and somehow managed to avoid spoilers, definitely pause this video right here, go see the movie, and then come back here and watch the rest. Because we're going to be talking spoilers. All spoilers. Now then, without further ado, cue the spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning, spoilers coming now.
Alright then, jumping right into spoilers, there were so many things that I just loved about this movie. For instance, I thought having Thor kill off Thanos right at the beginning of the movie and then having that 5 years later time jump was a brilliant move. To be fair, especially after seeing it the second time, I found some of the stuff after that 5-year jump to be a little bit slow, but I think it really did help establish the mood for this film. Jumping ahead to the time heist, I thought it was really interesting how time travel was portrayed in this film. I think the way how they established how going back to the past and changing your past does not affect your present was a really interesting spin on how we typically see time travel. One thing I really loved was how they went back to the New York of 2012's The Avengers. I'm pretty sure I was smiling throughout that whole scene. I especially loved how they were able to call back to the elevator scene of Winter Soldier, this time with Cap's Hail Hydra, and after that, have Cap fight the 2012 version of himself. I also loved how they were able to go back to Morag in 2014, where we first got to meet Chris Pratt as Peter Quill or Star-Lord. I mean, as soon as Come and Get Your Love started playing, I was like, yes, it's happening. Now moving on to a bit later in the film, one part that I really loved, and the part where I think my theater was cheering the loudest, was when we saw Cap wield Thor's hammer Mjolnir. Now that part was amazing, there's no denying that. But by far, my favorite scene in the whole movie, and possibly in any Marvel movie ever, was the portal sequence, when we finally got to hear Cap say, "Avengers, assemble." The whole fight that followed that was also incredible to see, and really made up for the lack of fighting in this movie compared to something like Infinity War. Now of course, that whole fight ends with Tony's death, which was extremely emotional. But after thinking about it a lot since I first saw the film, I think that it was the perfect send-off for the character who started it all. I really liked how they showed that Tony and Pepper got married, that they had a daughter named Morgan, and I really loved all the scenes between Tony and Morgan in this film. I think that all really helped make Tony's death even more emotional, but made his life feel even more complete. I mean, one of the big themes of the movie was that part of the journey is the end, and that's not something that's easy to talk about, but I think that Endgame really handled it all very well. Now then, let's move on to the other major death of Endgame, that of Black Widow. The first time I saw Endgame, I kind of felt like maybe they didn't show enough of the other Avengers mourning Natasha's death. But after seeing it the second time, I realized that it was just the right amount, because they really did have to act fast in order to not let Natasha's death be in vain. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Natasha's death affects the upcoming Black Widow standalone film, which is supposed to be a prequel, but who knows considering that we saw 2014 Gamora come to 2023 in this film. Moving on to the next of the OG6 Avengers, one that I think was affected the most by Natasha's death is Hawkeye. Especially while watching the film a second time, I thought it was really interesting to see the progression of Hawkeye throughout this movie. From the absolutely devastating beginning of this film where we see Hawkeye lose his whole family, to seeing him take justice and judgment into his own hands as Ronin, to seeing him rejoin the Avengers only to lose his best friend Natasha, Jeremy Renner showed so much emotion in his performance as Hawkeye in this film, and that really showed that Hawkeye was not only a superhero, but also a human. Moving on to another of the original six, Captain America had the perfect ending in my opinion. I think that having Cap go back to be with Peggy and finally get that dance with her was the perfect way to end this film since it brought so much closure not just to the film, but also to this character. Next, let's take a moment to talk about Thor in this film. The first time I saw Endgame, I felt like the whole fat Thor thing was kind of there mostly just for laughs, but after seeing it a second time, I felt like it made a lot of sense. When I went to see the film a second time, I felt bad for Thor. I mean, the guy lost almost everyone he cares about, and then half of the universe goes away just like that, and he feels personally responsible because he didn't go for the head the first time. After all of that, of course he's going to be depressed, and of course he's going to try to eat and drink his way to blocking out the pain. Even though he felt like maybe he wasn't worthy anymore in the beginning of this film, he really stepped up and took it on himself to make things right. And I thought it was great to see that once he did that, he was back in full force. I also loved how in the end of the movie, he stepped down from the throne and gave it to Valkyrie, and then joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, so hopefully we'll be seeing more of him in the future. Now, moving on to the last of the OG6 Avengers, let's talk about the Hulk. I personally loved the Hulk in this film. I think it was great to see Bruce Banner and the Hulk finally become one. Now, to be fair, although we did get to see more of Banner in this film, we didn't get to see as much of the Hulk being the Hulk as compared to in the first two Avengers movies or Thor Ragnarok. I think that would be nice to see, and who knows, maybe we would see it in the future. After all, at the end of the film, I felt like Hulk still didn't have closure, especially after losing Natasha and then Tony. Now the end of Endgame brings the question of where do we go from here? Especially after Endgame, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with the new shows that they're bringing to the Disney Plus streaming platform, especially the show about Loki, and the show about Sam and Bucky now that Sam is the new Captain America. I also think it's going to be interesting to see any consequences of bringing everyone back, as well as any consequences of the time travel in this film, the existence of a multiverse, and who knows, we might just see that in this summer's Spider-Man Far From Home. Now then, Avengers Endgame was such an amazing film to experience. It was packed with so much fan service, and I loved every bit of it. And while I'm not sure how the film would stand on its own without the whole decade of backstory that the MCU gave it, I think I would give this film a 9.5 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear your thoughts on Avengers Endgame, so if you have anything to share, please feel free to leave it in a comment below. I really do hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.
I am inevitable. Hi, Inevitable.
I am Iron Man.
Oh, snap.